ॐ भैरवाय नमः। ॐ हिङ्गुलाम्बिकाय नमः। ॐ कामाख्याय नमः। ॐ कालकालाय विद्महे कालातीताय धीमहि तन्नः कालभैरव प्रचोदयात्। ॐ हिङ्गुळे परमहिङ्गुळे अमृतरूपिणी तनुशक्तिमनश्शिवशिरिङ्गुळा नमः। ॐ कामाख्यवरदे देवी नीलपर्वतवासिनी त्वं देवी जगतं मात्रं योनिमुद्रे नमोस्तुते। Namaskaram. Welcome to yet another video of our Ishtartha Bhairava, Guru Bhairava, where we will try to know about him a one-step closer as what we know last minute. Today, we are going to continue the series of Dasha Bhairava. Dasha Mahabhairava, as I told, it is all connected to Dasha Mahavidyas. So basically, in today's Swarupa, it is one of the Swarupa which has really been dormant. Many of them have not spoken about this, nor many of them know about the Swarupa at all of Bhairava. So basically, this Swarupa is also connected to one of the Dasha Mahavidya, where the transcending awareness as well as a great protection, how exactly they are creating to this Manakula will be disclosed today. So basically, similar as what we have spoken in last previous episodes, it is all about the same thing. It happened actually in the ancient yugas, Aruna Yuga, when the cosmos actually trembled with raw as well as with the untamed energies. Something powerful was born at that time. Not for the longing, but for the deepest necessity, because at that time the dharma was trembling. And here, from the Rudra's jata, Shiva, Paramashiva's jata, a matted locks from a jata, in that moment a divine intensity, a brilliant light sparkled, one particular Swarupa emerged. We all know that actually in this particular form, during Sati's deciment at Daksha's, actually for the chopping of the Daksha's head, Veerabhadra came into existence. But here there was a brilliant, same process, same activities, or same kind of a divine intensity emerged. But here Bhairava came as headless form. Yes, he came as a headless form, the Pharisee yet deeply meditative. He was not called like for any kind of a desire or a wrath, but to restore the balance of dharma, the headless form of Bhairava came into existence. It was actually an indication to tell that to dissolve the pride and to awaken the forgotten energies buried in the realms, both within and without, this particular Swarupa came into existence, the headless form of Bhairava, where you will not be able to see his face at all. He did not have a mouth to speak, nor he had any kind of a nose, eyes, nothing. He was headless. He has faceless. This being did not speak. This Swarupa did not speak. He had no mouth. He did not see. He did not preserve anything. He stood all headless form in that particular Swarupa. Still he was radiating, because he had come from the Jata. From the Paramashiva, he was actually radiating, glowing like a fire of a tapas, completely observed into the samadhi, untouched, but still duality was active in him. He came to known as Shri Kabandha Bhairava. So Kabandha Bhairava is very, very lowly spoken about him, because here when we do Dasha Mahavidyas, especially when we come to Chinnamasta Mata, we speak about, or we know that actually Kabandha Bhairava is the consort of Chinnamasta Mata. But here in Dashamahavidya, in Dashamaha Bhairava, he is a fourth form. He is actually the fourth among the Dashabhairavas, Dashamaha Bhairavas. Each cosmic forces, like each of the expression of the Paramashiva, beyond the time and form, created himself into a different Swarupa of Bhairava Tattva. And here, Kabandha Bhairava Ashwara showcased, he is not just a what we call it as like a fearsome figure. He is reminding that a true vision is in inner vision itself, and the true power lies not by screaming, not by actually raising the voice. He showed that true power lies in the silence, in the surrender. Just speaking for multiple hours with furosity, talking about self, talking about someone, talking about. No, here Bhairava, who silented, who showed us that actually the vision is the true vision is always the inner vision. And moreover, he clearly bought a gift to us that a true power lies in the silence and surrender. Even if you see any sadhakas, the great sadhakas, normally they will make sure that actually only by the silence and the surrenderness they'll be able to make you many of the things revealed, not by talking to the hours together, nor by telling that actually I am Guru, you please sit and listen to me. This will happen only in the satsanga, but not continuously. But here our Kabandha Bhairava revealed very beautifully that true power lies in the silence and the surrender. He dissolves the ego, not with the violence as other Swarupas of Bhairava, not like Kala Bhairava, nor like Akshobhya Bhairava, not like Trayambaka Bhairava. Here he is showing us very beautifully that he can dissolve the ego with no violence required, but in the stillness that burns with that fire is what actually Kabandha Bhairava was able to guide us. And he was, that particular Swarupa came into an existence just to teach us that silence is the master. Many of the great ancient masters till dated, the saints have been Puja Swarupa till dated. Even they have spoken about this. The silence is a key. Here, we as a, from a Bhairava consciousness perspective, we being the Ishtartha Guru Bhairava of us, trying to know about him one step closer, let's understand one aspect of what is the meaning of Kabandha. Kabandha means actually like let me actually split the Kabandha word. Like Kabandha holds very significant potent, okay, very significant significance when it comes to the spirituality. But let me split this Kabandha into two words, Ka and Bandha. Ka in Sanskrita it is called as a void. Void is nothing but called as in Brahma because it is actually the emptiness. It is emptiness of the entire cosmos. If there is a creation, the creation may be minuscule or it can be very, very minute, but the entire cosmos is a void. And that cosmos of void is Ka. It is a Brahman. And the formless divine, faceless formless divine essence, that also it can be called as in Ka. And when it comes to Bandha, Bandha means bondage, binding. Even in few of the South Indian languages, the word actually Bandha, or even in Sanskrita Bandham, is actually referred to actually the bondage, the binding. This is the reason why it is called void bonding, the silence takeover. The who has shown us that the silence and the surrender is a true power. Here, Kabandha Bhairava represents paradoxically in a different ways. Okay, but when it comes to the awakening of the Bhairava Guna, he begins who is freeing from the ego and the mind, because he doesn't have a face at all, he doesn't have a head at all, he doesn't have a mouth to speak, he's in a silence. He's trying to teach us that free from your ego and mind. He's a headless, yet completely bound to the divine will, which is created by Shiva himself from the Jata. Here, he is not moving by a personal desire, thoughts, or a identity. He has not come here to actually do any kind of a samhara, but he has come here to teach. He has come here as a Guru Bhairava Tattva, as a Dashamaha Bhairavas is teaching us how Guru Bhairava Tattva is splitting us from a desire, from a thoughts, and from the identity. It is actually splitting all these things from a personal ground perspective, but flow in a complete surrenderness to the cosmic process which Paramashiva created. See, basically, Kabandha Bhairava is being worshipped even as Trigunas. Vedic, that is Dakshina Marga, Vama Marga, and Madhyama Marga. Here in Vedic, Kabandha Bhairava, also known as Ganapa without a trunk, without head. Ganapa means Ganapati. Here, Ganapati is actually having head, but here Ganapati without an head and without a trunk. The form of that particular Swarupa is a Kabandha Bhairava. Few of the actually Vedic scriptures have spoken about that. Okay, especially before forming that Ma Devi into the Swarupa of to the Ganapati, this particular formation of the Swarupa was called Kadambha, because without head, a trunk without a head. In a Vedic imaginary perspective, this is how actually we can articulate it. But symbolizes what that is symbolizes. It symbolizes very beautifully to us that the state beyond the intellect, the state beyond the intellect as we think. Unless we see the Swarupa, our surrenderness to the Swarupa actually will not be up to mark as per the Sanatana. But beyond that, these are the stages actually when it comes to the consciousness level. When actually we grow as in sadhakas, when we grow as we go nearby to the Bhairava Tattva, automatically these are the things which will open up. And this symbolizes a state beyond the intellect process. No head, no ego, no control. Only pure force guided by the divine. And that divine is complete Paramashiva Tattva. Here, Kabandha Bhairava, none other than Veerabhadrava also he has called us. Like Veerabhadrava came for a particular reason, because in Daksha's Yajna, when he did not even call Shiva, when Satima went there without even after taking the permission of her husband, and finally when she got to know that actually her husband has been not been given a particular respect which has been given to the Devatas, she surrendered herself to the Agni. She actually gave herself actually to the Ahuti of the Agni, due to which Shiva became very furious. Even like the first wife of the actually Shiva, Satima, when she left her body, her father Daksha Prajapati, to actually chop off him, like to kill him, even Vishnu was not able to save him at all, because that particular Swarupa was Veerabhadra Swarupa. Again, Veerabhadra Swarupa, it has also a different storyline, but actually today we will talk about Kabandha Bhairava, because Kabandha Bhairava is called a Swarupa as Veerabhadra Eshwara, because in a Veerabhadra Sahasra Namavali, even Kabandha, the word actually comes into that. Here, what we need to understand here is, he is not merely a fearsome being, because he did not came as any other particular Swarupa as Kala Bhairava or Kapala Bhairava, Krodha Bhairava, Unmat. He did not come like that, but he came here to force a unshakable devotion, like we can call it as a righteous destruction, the guardian of the truth, who stand without headless, fearless, and full of divine Shakti within him. And there is one of a beautiful story which is connected to actually Kabandha Bhairava as well as Ma Chinnamasta. But before talking about the Ma Chinnamasta, let me actually tell you like where exactly the Chinnamasta Ma is been actually spoken more about it, because Chinnamastama is like in multiple stories. Chinnamastama is spoken in two different variants. One is actually in Hindu mythology; it is spoken into a different way. But when it comes to the actually Buddhism, in the Viranjaniya Tantra, Viranjaniya Tantra is actually Virajana Tantra or Viranjaniya Tantra is actually um, is somewhat like a very secretive, which has been kept. But today, the artist, especially they create the Chinnamastama into a different way. Actually, she is portrayed into a different thoughts. So let me actually share you a different aspects when it comes to the Chinnamastama. Chinnamastama, I believe you would be knowing it. Chinnamastama is a very powerful legendary Ma. Okay, she is described as one of a very powerful and furious Ma, but still compassionate. Okay, of nature of Ma Tattva only, because she is one among the Dashamahavidyas. She comes on the seventh when it comes to the Dashamahavidya. In one of the beautiful tale, or like there are many stories when it comes to the Hindu mythology. In one of a story, actually, she has been connected to the Ma Parvati. Okay, in Mandakarina river when she was um, taking a bath, accomplishing by two support attenders with her, and she was actually playing in a water. And while playing in a water, the time slipped off. Actually, we can call it as a time passed in such a way that she did not know that actually so much of time has gone through. And immediately when the time passed, her compassion grew in such a way that actually her attenders, like her yakshinis, they were asking her and actually to hungry with a lot of hungry to feed her, to feed them. And they requested a food to Ma Parvati. And she lost her own divine stillness at that particular moment. It has been said that actually they were so annoying at that particular moment, but she became so furious, and stillness, that divine stillness actually was lost in that, lost in Ma, and for that particular moment. And Ma Parvati did not notice their pleas at all. The how they are trying to please, she was not able to notice that. Unrealizing her um, angriness and the delay and the feeling a deep compassion, she was actually very angry about the delay, what that the time skip, because she did not notice at all while playing in the water. And she did not, without even thinking second thought, she beheaded herself. She chopped off her head, and she kept her munda in her left hand. And here her neck flowed three streams of blood. Even if you have seen the photo, three streams of blood actually would be overflowing it. Two of them actually are nourishing to the her yakshinis or attendants who are actually escorted Ma that time. And the third head receive her own blood to serve the, because she is in hungry at that particular moment. Here what that particular iconography resembles for us is, from this supreme act of self-sacrifice, a compassion. Ma actually was so compassionate that even bhaktas come and ask, she is ready to give herself. That's the beauty of Ma. That's how the Ma is actually being articulated when it comes to the Ma Tattva. She is complete. She becomes known as a Chinnamasta at this particular time, because she actually has portrayed herself that she can sacrifice anything to her whoever calls her in love. And she own cut off her own head, stating that Chinnamasta. Chin means head, Masta means chopping off. This also can be called. There is one more storyline. Previous story, whatever we spoke about, this is about Ma Parvati, the second wife of Shiva. But this story actually go back to the Ma Sati, the first wife of Shiva. Here, she being a daughter of Daksha. And here what happened is actually when Daksha created the yagna, which I told previously, when and father, when her father actually did not call her own daughter as well as a son-in-law, she became very furious. Her divine anger gave rise to, it has been said that actually she was very furious before she actually was able to give her up into the ahuti of yagna. She splitted herself into Dasha Mahavidya. She showed that particular Swarupa before actually entering into the fire, including Chinnamasta, who surrendered. Even the Shiva, from all the direction, he was able to view, witness this, because Shiva knew everything before even Satima approached him, that actually she wants to go to the Daksha's, his father's place, to attend the yagna where her father has not called her. Without invitation, she wants to go there. But Shiva stopped her, knowing everything. But for the Manukula, for the sake of the humanity, he knew that actually Satima need to give up her body now, and she need to take her form as a Dasha Mahavidyas. And one among them was Chinnamasta. Very, very powerful Swarupa. In this form, she represented Shakti as unstoppable. Unstoppable. Even she is ready to chop off her own head. That defeats any kind of a dharma. And her beloved calling her, she is ready to go anytime, anywhere. That's the way Chinnamasta Ma is actually so divinely. It has been said that actually whenever the sadhaka do a Chinnamasta's aradhana, she will be able to easily come to us, and she will be able to actually give us whatever is really needed good for this particular life. Ma knows everything, that actually what is capable of yourself, your version of this particular moment, what is capable of, what it can hold, what actually the best you can do from this particular existence perspective. Ma knows very well. She will be able to bestow all those things. In one more story, it has been written like Ma Kali, particularly, who created, like Parvati Ma only actually was a form of the Kali here, okay, who created the Dasha Mahavidya to stop the Shiva form living from her, because Shiva was trying to leave her at that moment. There is one beautiful story about that. Maybe sometime we will talk about it. Why exactly Kali Swarupa was Udbhava? Whatever we call it as Kali, Parvati was the main. Ma Durga was the main everything. Ma Parvati actually was the core form. She is a very core form of all Devi Swarupas. To create Mahavidyas and even to stop Shiva to go from herself, she actually disclosed herself into the Kali Swarupa. From the 10 directions, she stopped Shiva. She appeared in front of Shiva, including Chinnamasta Swarupa. Here Shiva actually he got actually shocked when he was able to see Ma Parvati, because it comes after the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, because Shiva himself actually will be as a guru to the Ma Parvati at that particular moment. But he forgets that Ma Parvati is also a guru to Shiva, because unless Shakti, he will become Shava. When he completes everything and he get up and start going it, Ma herself discloses her Swarupa as a Dashamaha Swarupa, stops Shiva in all the 10 directions. From the 10 direction, one of the beautiful Swarupa is Chinnamasta. And here, that particular Swarupa, Shiva was able to calm down, and he was able to sit and listen the Devi Tattva from Devi, even from a Devi Purana perspective. Devi actually was able to give a Guru Tattva to Shiva. This is the reason when it comes to the Ida and Pingla, Shushumna is very important, because this is the combination of the connection of Shiva Shakti Swarupa. Similarly, there is one more story. One of the other stories actually, Prachanda Chandrika. There is one of a beautiful story of Ma Parvati, Prachanda Chandrika, where actually during the war of Devas as well as Asuras, when the destruction was happening, when Durgama was trying to come, she called all the Dashamahavidyas. At that time, even Chinnamasta Ma was also in a very furious mode, where actually she drank her blood and calm her own powers. Okay, after destroying the demons, she beheaded everyone and she drank her own blood and she calmed down her powers. This is actually one of a story which is written in Prachanda Chandrika. Even in Samudra Mantana, it is also linked, like to balance the creation as well as the destruction. Ma was actually linked into. See here, what we need to understand from a Swarupa perspective is, in a very divinely way, why exactly Ma is so powerful when it comes to the Dashamahavidya. We will surely talk about Dashamahavidya Swarupa sometime in other videos. But here, connecting to the Kabandha Bhairava, we were talking about how exactly Chinnamasta Ma is being showcased in the Hindu Tattva, that is Hindu, primarily from the Shakti tradition perspective, and second from the Vijayarayana Tantra or Buddhism. Buddhism tantric, or a particularly Tibetan tantric. Okay, Vajrayana tantra is actually the second level of the Buddhism tantra, which she is being showcased into a different way. We understood like how exactly Ma has been showcased when it comes to the Shakti tantra tradition, how exactly in the different ways of Mahavidyas, she was able to come into a picture, whether it was in the Swarup of a Ma, of Parvati or Adi Shakti, we were able to know about this. Here, what even we need to know about her, she chopping herself, her head is actually represents the ego sacrifices, okay? Self transcendence to the next level, the victory over the spirit of our identity. This is a very dangerous aspect. Everyone, till they drop their body, this will be there. Ego sacrifice is very, very crucial when it comes to the sadhana paddhati. Self transcendence is not actually one time activity, it is a repetitive. As we always go to the now situation, as now is what we have it now, because the now is already past, the now only has now. Similarly, the victory over the identity, self identity, our identity should happen repetitively. This is what actually Ma was able to tell us very clearly. Even in Shakta tradition, or in Shakta Tantra, in a beautiful line, it was being said, the two attendants, whatever the escorted Ma, they're Dakshini as well as Varahini. Dakshini as well as Varahini. They were the two attendees of Ma when they escorted the Ma to the particular river. Here, what we need to understand is, when she chopped off the three streams of blood when it popped out, it also connects to Ida, Pingla and Shushumna. Here, Ida is actually like, the blood was drunk by the Dakini, and the other stream of blood was Varini, Dakini, Varini, and the third stream of the blood was Shushumna. That is none other than Chinnamasta Ma herself actually was able to drink it, because unless you capture this Dakini, Shakini, that is, unless you take a control of Ida and Pingla nadis into yourself, reaching to the Shushumna is not possible at all. This is what actually she showcased her. And even her nakedness, the posture is showing very clearly it is a representative of the raw truth. It is about the detachment. It is about the transcendence of material illusion, what we have it. See, in Shakta Tantra tradition, each iconography is, we can talk about her hours together, because she will awaken us only from that particular Swarupa only. Because especially here, teaching the sadhakas, the mental bondages and the illusion, what actually Ma was able to teach us. But when it comes to the Buddhist interpretation, or we can call it as Vajrayana Tantra, here in Vajrayana Tantra, Chamunda Ma is called as Chinnamunda. Okay, she's called as Chinnamunda, and even emotionally, or few of them call as Vajrayana Yogini, Vajrayana Yogini, and Vajravarahi also they will call us, call ma. Okay, here what we need to understand is in Buddha, especially in the Tantric Buddhism, it was like this particular Swarup of Chinnamundama was actually has been disclosed as somewhat like a wisdom. She is a wisdom of, she is actually a Dakini here. Okay, she is a wisdom of a Dakini, or a wrathful female Buddha. We can call it as a wrathful female Buddha Swarupa Chinnamundama. She chops off her head, same as actually in the Hinduism or Shakta tradition, whatever we tell. But here it is about the duality. Through the illusion of a self, she chops off. The bloodstream also, their Ida and Pingla and Shushumna, how it has been represented. Here actually it is represented as offering. It is actually a symbolizing of offering, impermanence, and the flow of wisdom, prajna. Okay, these are the three aspects she was able to show us from the three streams of blood. And she has been often dancing in carnal ground, especially in the ultimate truth and the transformation which symbolically it has been represented as. See, inner meaning of Buddhism, especially when it comes to Chinnamastama, is very beautifully articulated. She is actually a prajna paramamita, prajnana paramamita, because prajna paramamita, three words actually split it into it. It is a perfection of the wisdom, knowledge, and awareness. Prajnana paramamita, the perfection of wisdom, knowledge, and awareness. This is what actually this particular Swarupa teaches us. But when it comes to the advanced Tantric, it is clearly told when in the Buddha Tantra, people can go to the Chinnamastama only to know and reach to drop their ego. See, these are 10 Mahavidyas which will teach us the different dropping of our core identity and entering into the emptiness. And we as a sadhakas are supposed to actually go hand in hand. Unless Bhairava Adhara is not there, entering into the Devi Swarupa is really impossible. As I always tell, it will be like window shopping for every one of us. Next, we will come back to the story. Chinnamastama, you got to know about how exactly Chinnamastama Swarupa and Kabandha Bhairava are articulated from their one Swarupa perspective. But here there is one of a beautiful story which is connected to Chinnamastama as well as Kadamba Bhairava. It was in such a way that actually, especially in the Kashmir Tantra, Kashmiri Shaivism, it is one of a story which is beautifully been articulated in that particular eastern belt. Okay, eastern belt, especially in the Assam, near to the Assam, there was like a mantrik, one of a mantrik who has actually grabbed all the siddhis of Kali. He had also Kali, all the Swarupas of Kali, including the Smashana Kali, he had actually gained all the siddhis. And he had also gone into the second Swarupa of Kalima, of Tarama. And even Tarama, again, see, when it comes to the Dashamahavidyas, it is not that actually you have gained some academic qualification. It is about the siddhi. You have got some knowledge, a wandering knowledge. Actually, your consciousness is rising about and actually go to your Tantra aspects to the higher level. Here, he had already all the 6 Devis. Actually, he had gone. He had actually acquired. I can call it as acquired because he was in the pursuit of actually acquiring the siddhis. After Bhairavi Mata, it happened actually he was doing certain tantric sadhana in that particular midst of the wood. Okay, and he was a very young mantrika wandering, and he was very silenced. Okay, he was actually Devi Mas so surrendered, like he belonged to no order at all. This particular sadhaka did not had any name to call himself. Whenever he used to go to any kind of a village, when people used to call him, they used to call him in a different names. But he only had one particular mantra to talk. Whatever people talk, he used to tell only one word: Ma, Ma. That's it. He never used to call any other words. It happened in that a way that actually when he was moving from one particular to the other place, in one particular cremation ground near to the Kamparupa, it is clearly articulated. It is a Kamparupa because it is one of a powerful place, because where the ashes spoke more than the spirits here. It is like he performed the Shavasadhana, sitting on the corpse of the Kali Mas, and when even Taramas also will come into it, Shavasadhana was completed, invoking the Ma form. And here, when he invoked Ma in all the 6 Swarupas, she was able to disclose into the 7th Swarupa. He did not expect it actually. He thought that actually he invoked every 6 Swarupas, but 6 Swarupas did not arrive. There was a 7th Swarupa which came into an existence, Chinnamasta. He was trembling because he has never seen such kind of Swarupa at all. Here, the connection of a prana, this is actually prana toshmi tantra. This is actually like it has been said in prana toshmi tantra that actually how the particular Swarupa was being disclosed to that particular sadhaka when Chinamasta was being called, including the six Dashamahavidya Swarupa of the Ma. The 7th Swarupa actually was popped up, and that was a Chinnamasta. Here, when Ma Swarupa was active, days turned into night, timeless stillness, and he had cut tries to hunger the speech as well as his sleep. Only the name of the Devi remained during that of the breath. And here, what we need to understand here is from the heart of the fire pit, when Chinnamasta Ma came, a self, we can call it as actually she came like already she had chopped off her head and the stream of blood was oozing, like blood was flowing from her neck. Okay, and 2 Yakshinis also, Dakini as well as Yakshini, both were actually escorting Ma at that particular moment. They were drinking the blood streams. He got trembled. Then Ma was able to educate him that here when he was trying to do this particularly, her eyes was burning into a compassion because she's holding her own head in the left hand beyond the form. At that moment, when he first time he called the word Bhairava, because he is in a fear. Here Ma herself is in so furious form, he is trembling, and actually he called for the Rakshana, and that Rakshana is where our Guru Bhairava came into picture in Kabandha Bhairava perspective. He came into this particular Swarupa where he was able to, because he is without face at all, and he made that sadhaka calm down. And that particular calm down, compassion he was able to see in Bhairava, the energy he was able to see in the Bhairava, and he was able to completely observe after the Bhairava Tattva, after observing the Bhairava connection, because once Bhairava is there, Devi Ma Swarupas will be a grace. This is what actually he did. He fearlessly he called Bhairava. Bhairava, when he came, he ensured that he was calmed down, and sadhaka at that moment he was able to open his eyes, see the Ma in the compassion beyond the form actually what she was in that Ugra Swarupa. She was naked, she was complete radiant, standing on the Kama as well as Rati. She was standing on two couples, the deities of a desire. I believe you would be knowing it when it comes to the iconography. She stared into the monks. She stared into the sadhaka's eyes because Bhairava is there now, and particular ego of the and the surrenderness of the sadhaka was burnt. It was burnt as a flame. He could not speak at all because he thought that actually he has gained all the academic knowledges. People nowadays talk about, I have got all the siddhis. I have actually completed all the Dashamavidya. Thousands of years, lakh of years, even one particular Swarupa activation is not so easy. As we read a book, you may just complete the understanding of the particular Devis. But to understand the true essence, to the inner being, to connect with each Swarup of the Ma, it takes thousands of years. Here, as his pride was dissolved, he could not speak. His breath stopped, but the inner being felt her call, and he was able to recognize Shakti. Once she comes, she is a complete raw form of energy, and that can be controlled only by Bhairava. Here, Ma whispered in his ears, telling very beautifully to that sadhaka that to dissolve, you must offer your head like I did, not the head of flesh, practically chopping off your head, but to one that thinks it rules, because mind always rules. Mind always thinks that I am more. He's telling this particular keynote to us. To dissolve, you must offer your head like I did, not as a flesh, but to the one you think that you are that. You make your rules of yourself, then you and I are no difference. In that moment, he recognized that actually having the pride, ego that I know everything of particular all the six Swarupas of Devi, and I know everything, and I have. In that moment, he cried. He cried in such a way, he wept, not from the fear, but to recognize that till dated what sort of ego he was trying to carry. Only with the help of Kabandha Bhairava and Ma Chinnamasta, he was able to know the true meaning of truth of surrenderness. Because the Daiva only doesn't have the recognition of their own face. They don't have their own head. When sadhaka still sitting, but his eyes actually was completely changed, because he had lost, he was buried, his ego was buried, his face, his head was chopped off, not physically, but his mental head. There was actually a longing for Ma, longing for Bhairava. They reflected in him, stating that he can achieve to the next heights. This is where that particular sadhaka was called as Akshaya. Today, Rishi Akshaya is one of a very powerful Devi sadhaka who actually moved away from the death before death can come to him, because he was reborn to the light of Kabandha Bhairava as well as Chinnamasta. Akshaya Rishi is articulated in many of the Tantra scriptures, how exactly he was able to take his knowledges to the highest level and how he got enlightened. See, enlightenment is not actually like a one-step academic graduation, stating that, or it is somewhat like actually repetitive, as I always tell. Every steps is where actually you get more connected to the Bhairava Guna, Bhairava consciousness. Here, we as a sadhakas, we as from a Bhairava consciousness sadhaka perspective, what we need to understand, even in this tantric circles, what the metaphor is very simple. Okay, to put it into very simple, this metaphor actually gives us very simple, clear, stating that ego sacrifice is very, very essential when it comes to the sadhana. Even if you call yourself as a guru, even if you call yourself as a knowledgeable person after reading many of the scriptures or teaching to thousands of people, unless your ego is sacrificed, you cannot step towards Ma or Bhairava. They are there always to support us. They will come to support us, but they will not disclose their complete identity to us unless we are open up to them. Here, it will also shows that awareness through the fearlessness, what we can call it as Kundalini. Kundalini is also a Tantra. People call this as actually in a different way, in different words. Kundalini is a process of Tantra. Okay, awakening through the fearlessness is also being disclosed here. Here also she, that particular Swarupa of Devi as well as Kadamba Bhairava, it is showing that the power of Farsi union of Ma as well as male feminine is just a grace. The particular Farsi Swarupa of Ma was actually a grace. So any sadhakas having the difficulties in their line of the during sadhana paddhati, try to understand she is trying to disclose something to you, and it cannot be showcased or cannot be explained by anyone, even by any of the gurus. It can be self experienced. Unless you experience yourself, experiencing divine is a next impossible. So here this metaphor is clearly articulating that the direct transformation is beyond the scriptures. It clearly tells, unless you dissolve your head, your ego, your thought process, unless it is being chopped off, it is never you are going to reach to the Daiva Tattva. Here, Kadamba Bhairava is not being worshipped merely as a deity. Try to understand. He doesn't have a head at all. How he has been? He is a, here we can experience to the egoless existence. Bhairava Guna, Guru Bhairava Guna is somewhat like experiencing him with egoless existence. And when it comes to Chinnamasta, it is not merely terrifying. She was not here to terrify us. She came with a more fierce love. It a different form of love, who feeds other with her own essence. She is ready to chop off her own head when sadhaka calls him. Their union reveals that only by sacrificing the self. Here, the metaphor is very, very clear. Only by sacrificing this self, we can, or this self can know the unknown. That is the reason bhava, bhavatmaka, bhava is very, very essential. Once the bhava is peak, you lose your mind. Losing your mind is very beautiful tool, because you are actually sacrificing yourself, and you at that moment you are one step closer to know the self by the unknown aspect. So bhava is not actually a word, it is a beautiful tool. It is a true awakening. It does not comes in light. Okay, it does not comes in overnight. That is the reason we always tell, do 144 days of sadhana, because it will bury you. It will make your foundation such a strong. Your bhavane with our, or bhavana with our ishta, bhavana with Guru Bhairava will make you such a strong that your silence after that ego is skinned. It is skinned. Once it has gone away, you will get to know about the real tattva of Bhairava. Guru Bhairava is so compassionate. Okay, he, here whatever the stories or metaphor whatever we have spoke about here is, Chinnamasta is teaching us very beautifully. Both doesn't have a heads, like whether it is a Chinnamasta or Kadamba Bhairava, they are clearly telling us one particular thing, as we being a sadhakas, that head resembles something else. Chinnamasta tells it actually, her head in the left hand served by herself, showing that actually your ego transcendence need to be there. Bhairava without head is telling that your ego, unless your ego is absence, you cannot know about the real Guru Tattva, your real Bhairava Tattva, you will never know. The energies of both the Shakti as well as Rudra form tells us that actually in Shakti it is a liberation through the intensity, because it is a life, it is a sacrifice. But when it comes to the Rudra force, Kabandha Bhairava, it is a stillness in the rage, the egoless awareness which he created. Here, Chinnamasta actually also hold a kadga, okay, and a skull as well as a trident. Here, actually, Kadamba Bhairava holds a sword as well as an arrow, okay, as well as a gada. It resembles that actually each are actually carrying one iconography in a different swarupa, to teach us that even after having so much of Shakti, so much of knowledge, so much of weapons, so much of Shakti, one thing what you need not to have is having the ego, having the head. having the head, that actually I make something difference. And even here, what it states, this particular Swarupa states as very beautifully that, see, here it is a dynamic as well as repetitive. Shakti is actually always dynamic and repetitive because that is a Shakti. But when it comes to the Kadamba Bhairava, we need to understand it is a silence. It is a roaring within, but unmoved. That is was the reason he was without a face at all. Bhairava, the Dashamaha Bhairava without a face, Kadamba Bhairava was able to reveal himself. See here, we need to understand Kadamba Bhairava is, once the Kadamba Bhairava is being activated, Chinnamastama will automatically come. When Chinnamastama is activated from a Dashamaha Vidya perspective, Kadamba Bhairava will come activated. That is the reason always when you perform Devi Aradhana, you will go towards the Bhairava, or it is a vice versa. When you do a Bhairava, you will go to the Devi. People only talk that actually one particular Devi is enough. Bhairava is only a no. Their energies, the combined energy awakens us, worshipping them in the Shushumna Nadi, because Ida and Pingla, as we spoke about in the Shakta tradition perspective, the coiled spiritual energy or a Kundalini energy activates only or rises through Shushumna Nadi. And this can happen once you drop your ego, drop your knowledge of self. Here they teach us very clearly, like zero ego state is what really needed. Removing the arrogance, identification that I am trying to do, I know this, my life is beautiful, I have been born in a very good family, I have everything and I can do anything. Identification, once you drop it, the mental bondage what you carry, all I did, because of all I did is because of that identification I have got this. Every karma sambandha is different. You have come here for a particular purpose, and to know that purpose, unless you go into the sadhana paddhati, unless you know about what exactly the sadhana is, you will never get to know about what actually is the Shakti or the Daiva will be able to take a grace on us. Unless the arrogance, identification and mental bondage is being dropped, the pure awareness is never possible at all. This state of awareness, even in Shakta tradition, we can call it as Unmani avastha is somewhat like actually the avastha when Dashamaha Vidyas, especially when it comes to the particular Chinnamasta, Unmasti avastha is something like actually going beyond your arrogance, identification as well as a mental bondage. Pure awareness will be activated. The awareness will be so deepened. It is called like Shanta Swarupani, Shanta Swarupa. Particularly about that particular avastha, it is Unmani is somewhat like madness. Same like Unmata Bhairava, Unmani is somewhat like a madness. You are completely mad in Daiva. When it comes to particular Aradhana, it has been said, approaching even Chinnamastama or the Kabandha Bhairava, any kind of absolute prosperity, not through the money, spiritual wealth can begin. What is spiritual wealth? You get to know about your own self in a much more awakened way, is a absolute prosperity in the spirituality. You will be able to gauge the inner courage and the strength to face anyone, anything at any given point of time in your sadhana paddhati, because you have already destroyed the inner demon, which is very, very essential for each sadhakas to stand in the truth, even in uncomfortable situation, is what this particular Swarupa of a Daiva which is teaching us. It is also teaching very beautiful for us, do not run behind the siddhis. Siddhi or the death and fear. Headlessness symbolizes very clearly fearlessness or actually running behind something over the death. We all actually running towards the death. And the acceptance of the impermanence is very, very essential when it comes to this headlessness symbolization. It is that actually the death we all are stepping towards. Siddhis is not going to help you anywhere. Surrenderness, selflessness, pure consciousness is what the tools are which will make you a step closer. Here, once the sadhaka step into this path is not really a gentle, this is a transformative. You will be buried every minute because you need to become much more potent, energetic, similar to the gold. Unless it has been heated and more tamped, the glitterness will never come. Similarly, Daiva will always tamper us with more karmas, giving us more cleansing of all the karmas, such that actually we can transform ourselves into a beautiful way. This brings a freedom through the sudden lightning bolt of the awareness, which will surely happen to everyone, rather than a gradual changes. Lot of huge changes will actually come into it once you are ready for the transformation, and that is never a gentle transformation. Never think that actually in your comfort, your comfort of the sadhana, you will be able to transform. Never, it is never possible. Okay. And here what we need to also understand is in Kaula Tantra lineage also, Kadamba Bhairava is over the Chinnamasta Spita, especially in the temples in the Varanasi, and Shakti Pitas, especially where spiritual aspirants, whenever they go there, whenever they bow down to Chinnamastama, Kadamba Bhairava is always active. Kaulamana Tantra actually very clearly tells that actually unless Bhairava decoding Devi or understanding Devi is impossible, next impossible. Okay. And awakening even the Kundalini process, it has been said that actually Bhairava Guna, that is actually Idan Pingla, as I told you, walking past even in the Kadamba Bhairava perspective is very, very essential, because it will give us much more. Because once the energy rises from the Muladhara to Sahasrara, even if you have something ego in your head, thinking that I do something, that headless form or the gazing is not being buried. Having a real activation of a Kundalini is not possible at all. Only those who saw not with the eyes but to the inner drishti, vision, were allowing your move towards ahead, other than consuming their own unsolved fear or the ego. They will never go towards anywhere. They will be where they have started with. Maybe they can learn certain mantras, they can listen to some of them by beautiful story about themselves, self-marketing. But or some gurus may actually tell you that actually if you come here, be here, and actually perform so much day of a sadhana, transformation will not happen by sitting somewhere or not visiting somewhere. Transformation will happen once your Garbhagraha is open for the Daiva to come and sit inside. Daiva will only come when actually you do not have this head, and this head clearly indicates that Kadamba Bhairava will grace. In case if you have his grace, your ego will be actually buried. Here, Kadamba Bhairava and Chinnamastama are not like a blind devotions, not asking you to do any kind of a blind devotions. They are actually showing each one of us that clarity, sacrifice, and inner courage is three tools once you go in this particular sadhana paddhati. Their union are still fire. They are buried away the false self, what we have it in our head, and eventually it reveals the external sparkle within ourselves. Here, what exactly they are trying to teach us, we need to understand, because this is very, very essential. As we being from a Bhairava sadhaka perspective, the Bhairava consciousness perspective, we need to know Kadamba Bhairava is teaching very beautifully that when the head, the ego falls, when the Shakti flow unblocked, when you roar like a Kadamba but remains in a stillness, then you are not just in a worshipping the Bhairava or Bhairavi or a Chinnamasta Devi. Here, you are not worshipping the Bhairava, you become Bhairava here. So, Don't try to learn, try to experience. This is what actually we always tell, even in the Telegram group. Unless you experience self, experiencing the Bhairava Tattva is next to impossible. Understand this. Understand this much more potent. That's the reason actually we have speaking about Vijnana Bhairava Tantra to know about 112 ways of this particular self in a much more better way. How exactly we can able to hold the or any kind of energy, Shakti coming to us, unblocking how we will be able to grab it. These things are actually being disclosed. Here, Bhairava is sharing his knowledge to all the Bhairava Bhairavis, such that actually we get in know to his particular Swarupa one step closer. Maybe today's video, it is more I have been spoken about Chinnamasta. I really don't know, because her energies, her vibration is so high that actually we can really feel her energies. Try to see, unless even when you do perform any kind of a rituals, unless it has been done without a particular bhava, trust me, daiva will never open up. Whatever you do it with such a love and surrenderness, with a bhava that actually they are supposed to come, and they will come. Maybe with that note, today we'll take a leave. Om Bhairavaya Namaha. Om Hingulambikaya Namaha. Om Kamakyaya Namaha. Om Hingule Paramahingule Amritaropini Tarashakti Manashva Shringula Namaha. Namaskar.